working. And a very big welcome to Stephan and to Ingmar. So Stephan, would you like to introduce Ingmar and yourself?
Yes, definitely. Well, Ryan just provided a great introduction to Ingmar's work, because Ryan just said that the best thing that you can do about climate change is think about it. And Ingmar is the founder of We Don't Have Time, which is the climate social network, especially focused on that topic. And that was something that was needed. And when I was invited to join We Don't Have Time in 2017, right after they founded We Don't Have Time, I was really thrilled. And so they have a high level event every year on Earth Day, April 22nd, which is a worldwide event with an amazing lineup of speakers, even better than today. And Ingmar is just the right person to set this up and speak about climate change. And we exchange all the time. We Don't Have Time is a very great education. Yeah. So I'm just a climate expert. I decided to make this my career, just like Ryan did in 2015 after COP26, when I realized exactly what Ryan said first, which is that if you don't solve the climate change issue, you're working on the other issues to no avail, because climate change has the power to destroy everything. So I call that the asymmetry of risk, which is that the risk of not solving climate change dwarfs all the risks of all the other objectives of sustainable development goals. So I think that what Ingmar and his team have done is great, because they have emphasized the fact that we need to focus on climate change if we want to be successful at solving all the other problems in the world.
Thank you so much for that introduction. So my background is actually that I'm not been working or active in the climate or environmental field before I founded We Don't Have Time. So my background is actually that I'm living in Sweden, Stockholm, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, raised at a small farm northern Sweden with 6 older brothers and sisters, and it was not so much to do there, so you have to be creative. So I've always been creative in my life, and I worked as an entrepreneur mainly in the finance industry, where I helped a lot of banks and asset managers, etc., to communicate about investments. But the reason why I started to engage with the climate issue was actually when I became a father myself. I started to look into the future a little bit longer. And I got very, very shocked when I educated myself about the climate change problem, because what people was aware about 4 years ago was very, very differently from how severe the climate crisis actually are. Nowadays, more people are aware, but most people are still sleeping, and even if they are aware, they try to avoid it, because it's they just keep on doing business as usual. As I think all of you that are joining this call knows, the climate issue is really, really severe. And what I think is missing is that we are a lot of people that are active in the climate change field that wants to work for a solution and to have change happening. But so far we have been kind of lonely. I mean, most people are not aware, and if you are with your friends, family, and other people, they just keep carrying on business as usual. But if you connect all those people that actually are waking up on a global scale with each other, we're not alone anymore. We don't need to live in the same place. We can meet digitally, and we can be that critical mass that actually influence all the others to follow, that will speed up change. And that is what We Don't Have Time is all about. We have created a social media platform that is an alternative to Facebook, Twitter, and all the big platforms. But what is special with our platform is that it's focused on the climate and environment issue. And you can also talk directly with leaders. We have built a system where our members could give climate reviews, what is good and what is bad, and send those reviews to a business or a leader or a public figure, and engage with them. And the more people that are agreeing on those reviews, the more power behind it, and the more answers we got, and the more change we got. So today we have had everything from world leaders like the Brazilian president to multinational corporation, even oil companies has answered criticism and also good reviews on our platform. And I think that is a huge change driver to connect everyone, have them to work together, and also give all those leaders and businesses and organizations that are doing the right thing, give them credit for it, because that will make others to follow, and we will have a positive competition, and that will speed up the transition. The transition will happen anyway, but it's happening too slow, and we don't have time to wait. So that's what our name and our organization is all about.
Yes, thank you very much, Ingmar. In fact, I think both our organizations have great names because we don't have time. And I got it right away. It's exactly the crux of the issue that we are too slow. I mean, the climate movement is interesting because it is really worldwide. It spans all the levels of society and cultures and our entire worldwide civilization. So that's great. But on the other hand, we've been talking about this since 1990. That's 30 years ago, and we've known for a while that we needed to start really efficient climate action in 2020. That's what's written in the Paris Agreement, which is 5 years after the entry into force, which was in 2016. So starting this year, 2021, we must reduce CO2 emissions on a massive scale, and the world is not yet ready to do that. In fact, in 2020, what happened is that we reduced CO2 emissions by about 5, 6, 7% maybe, but that's due to the pandemic. So that gives an idea of the massive effort which needs to be done if you want to have our economy keeping running and reduce CO2 emissions. The effort that we need to make is as big and as bad as having to deal with the coronavirus. So it's no small task, and it will require everyone to network and think about it and make decisions and agree very fast, because now we've had 5 years since the signature of the Paris Agreement to think about it. Now we need to act. And on top of that, in 2018, IPCC made the game a little bit tricky, because what the IPCC found was, okay, well under 2 degrees is nice, but in fact, if you want to be really safe, you need to achieve 1.5 degrees, which means keeping global warming close to plus 1.5 degrees max. And that's even worse than 1.8 or 1.9. It's much tougher to do. And the reason for that, I want to take the example of a bridge. If you want to cross a bridge, and the engineer tells you, okay, at plus 2 degrees, you have 50% chance for the bridge to collapse. Will you cross it? And then they tell you, okay, if you limit global warming to plus 1.5 degrees, this bridge has only 30% chance of collapsing. So it's not perfect, but it's much better than 50%. And maybe you will take your chances. So I think we have this choice to make. Do we want to play it safe and shoot for 1.5? It's still a bit risky, but it's acceptable. Or do we want to do the minimum effort that we need to do, which is plus 2 degrees, and have a 50% chance of failure? So that's really the issue here. What do you think, Ingmar?
What I think is that regards last year global emission cut, that is of course in one way a good news that we succeeded to do that. But we all know it was not because climate action, it was because that we had stopped doing things. And here is a really, I would say, there is something that we all need to learn from. It is not enough to stop doing things. We will never solve this climate crisis by only stop doing things or reduce our emission. That will maybe buy us some precious time, but in order to actually survive as a civilization on this planet, we need to do a lot more than just stop doing things. What I'm talking about is that if you see the carbon level in the atmosphere last year, we had this emission cuts of, it actually was 7% on a global scale, I think most sources say. But the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was the same as the previous year. So we had reduced our emission, but the increase of carbon in the atmosphere are the same increasing. So what is happening here? What is actually going on already is that the nature is can't absorb the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere as this, on the same level as it had done in the past. And this is really dangerous because this could accelerate. And for instance, we all know that we have had a lot of fires around the world. One of the fires that media didn't focus so much on, it was actually the fires in the Arctic. And last summer, the 2 months when the fires were really, really large in the northern Russia, the emission from that wildfires was the same amount as the emission from the whole Scandinavia for a whole year. I mean, what I mean with doing something, it's not enough to just reduce, is that we need to put that fires out. We need to protect nature. We can't just plant new trees. We need to preserve the trees we already got. We need to put out the fires when the fires start because we're heating up the planet. And we need to suck down that carbon we already have in the atmosphere. And we need to make it really, really profitable to save the world and really, really, really expensive to destroy the world. Today, it's the exactly opposite. You earn money if you destroy the world, and you must spend money if you want to save it. Someone asked here in the Q&A if we as panelists could be called eco-socialists. I can only answer for myself, but I believe in capitalism, but I don't believe in the capitalism we have had, because that has destroyed the world. But I believe that we can use capitalism if we change the system and have that as one aspect of actually solving it. But we need to change it for sure. I think I would rather be called eco-warrior, because this is kind of a war we need to win here. And the enemy is not ourselves. The enemy is actually saving the planet we're depending on.
Yes, unfortunately, Ingmar, I'm afraid that you might be right on this one, but it has become a war. We should have acted a bit faster to avoid that, but now it's too late. So, I think we all need to get convinced about this.
Can I jump in here just very quickly? 3 brilliant minds here, and that doesn't include me. That the fact that you have genius within you, you've seen the situation. But if we talk about the problem too much, we'll never find a solution. It's 1:15. The next talk is at 1:30. Can we talk about solutions for the next couple of minutes rather than just what we're doing? Would that be okay? Because we need to give people hope. It gives us happiness.
Yeah, but I'm trying to get people hope. I will do that. The hope is that today it's really, really expensive to solve the climate crisis and really, really profitable to make it worse. We can change that. It's absolutely possible to change the rules. And let's do that. And the lesson with, the nature is now, it doesn't absorb carbon dioxide as much as it had done in the past. We could use that knowledge and let us scale the nature to have it absorb more. It's absolutely possible. What I'm talking about is that we need to shift mindset, and you're absolutely right. We need to shift mindset from the problem to the solution. We should not focus on reduction everything. We should focus on saving everything. Of course we need to reduce, but that will come automatically if we focus on the solution. So absolutely, let's focus on the solutions. And I think we should look into the sectors in the world that are today the most emitting sectors we have and not so talked about. We have so much in communication and action going on with renewables, the energy. I'm not worried about the energy. The market will take care of that. It's really expensive with fossil fuel energy, and renewables are cheap, and that will, I mean, that is going to happen. We're going to have green energy in the world. But what I think we should focus more on is other sectors, like how we produce our food. And it's not all about going vegan. Not all people on the planet can go vegan. I mean, we still need farming in some places with agriculture and animals, etc. But we need to have the agriculture and food industry to absorb carbon instead of emitting carbon, and that is absolutely possible to achieve. The same, another area is the building sector. It's a huge emitter when you build houses with cement, etc. But houses are actually very, very good at storing carbon. So we could develop and we could implement technologies that are really already out there. Green cement and building with wood, etc. We could implement that and build with that instead. But
and not to mention our waste.
It's much more expensive.
And not to mention how much we waste, but let's try and make the flow. Do you want to give one last solution, then we'll move over to another brilliant mind?
I think one last solution. I can just answer a question here and give a solution to that. We have a question in the chat about should we support people in the front lines in Brazil, etc., that are fighting to preserve the forest? Absolutely. Of course we should do that. And I think the best way to support it is with money, because people need money. And I think if the Brazilian governments see that they could make a lot of profits of preserving the forest instead of cutting it down, I think even the government will change their plans, actually, because money talks. I'm from the finance industry. I know money talks. Let's use the money for good. But it's of course not so easy to change the money system. It's really, really hard, and the only way we can do that is to get together and be very, very many to raise our voices and lead by example.
Let me just come in here, Gary. Let's just focus back onto the core subject. What do we want from COP26? So, Stephan, your turn next, and then let's ask Ingmar to come on to that, because this is specific. The world leaders are going to be there. So, Stephan, what do you want from COP26?
Well, it's very simple, in fact. As Ingmar said, it's a war, so we need a successful strategy. And the strategy must state the objectives and how to get there. So the objectives is to achieve carbon neutrality overall on the economy. And for 2 degrees, it's 2050, for 1.5 degrees, it's 2042. So we need to move actually faster than what everybody thinks. Really thinking about carbon neutrality 2050, it's 2040. How do you get there? Well, first we need to realize that we must act now, starting 2021, because we are already at 1.25 degrees global warming last year. So you see there is not much margin. There is no time, we don't have time to keep investing in fossil fuel and to keep coal going. We have to start building coal power plants. And as soon as you do that, that creates such a huge need for other sources of energy that renewables are not sufficient. You also need to have what has been called transition energies, and these could be biogas, but also nuclear power. And there is a debate, at least in the European Union, to decide whether nuclear power is sustainable. Well, that's a debate that should be decided pretty quickly. And I'm just going to give the facts. If you look right now at European countries, which are cancelling their nuclear exit and starting to do more, you have Sweden, Finland, Netherlands, France, Switzerland, and Spain soon. Countries which have decided to exit nuclear are Bulgaria, Lithuania, which have not decided to exit nuclear are Bulgaria, Lithuania, Slovakia, United Kingdom, Romania, Slovenia, and Croatia. And many are starting nuclear power plant projects in the Czech Republic, Poland, and Estonia, for instance. So we need all the low carbon, sustainable, and affordable power we can get. That means investing maximum on solar, wind, hydro, and also nuclear. And then when you do that, you can shut down the coal power plants by 2040. And once you've done that, because that's half of the problem, then you have the nature-based solutions, which is protecting forests, planting trees, and switching to cleaner transportations. And at the same time, as was said before, with stopping wasting resources, which is thinking more about travel, thinking more about the diets, and also investing more in materials and regenerative.
I think these are all great questions. So I'm just going to flick back to what the topic here is. The topic is what do we want from COP26? So if I were to hand you a special concoction, it's been made that when you drink it, you can change people's minds. It's not a magic wand, and it works particularly well with politicians and people in authority. So I'm gonna give you this special concoction, and you can get one conclusion from COP26, one movement that they're all going to agree on, because that's half the problem, them all agreeing. So who wants to answer this first? So I'm going to give you the concoction, you're going to put it in everybody's drink, and then they're going to do one thing that you're going to ask them to do. Go for it.
Harry, I'll have a go. Yeah.
All right, you all get a chance to change COP26 outcome. Go for it, Charles.
Okay, so I said in the previous talk I wanted world leaders to commit to 1.5 degrees. So I really want to highlight the data that Stephan shared with us at the beginning there, which is that really net zero 2050, which is what a lot of countries are going for. What Stephan said is that the scientific data shows that that achieves 2 degrees, right? Stephan said that to achieve 1.5, we need net zero in 2040 or 2042, right? And then also he said that we're now already at 1.25 on the way to 1.5. So what I want the 1.5 I asked for in the last session, right? And then my magic wand now is to say, right, let's get the world leaders to really pull their finger out as to how to deliver net zero in 2040, which is what Stephan, as the expert, says we need. This is what we need, guys. So, who's next?
Well, I want to give what I think is the solution that enables all the other solutions, which is named the private income in Europe, or the carbon fee and dividends in North America. It's a measure which has been proposed by the Citizens Climate Lobby, and which in fact enables to have a rising price of carbon, which will rise very fast because it is compensated at the level of each citizen. So it doesn't involve the companies, only the carbon emitting companies pay for the dividends, and the citizens get an extra buying power to choose the more expensive low carbon solutions, which addresses the point that Ingmar made about choosing to spend more to save the planet.
Okay, you've got a minute, sir. Over to you. What difference can you make?
Hey, I mean, if I could dream freely and I could have them to make the most important decision ever that they will never make, is of course to forbid fossil fuel. That is what we need to do. Stay in the ground. I mean, that is the end we need to achieve. But they will never do that, so I have a more realistic dream what they should do. And that is end fossil fuel subsidies. That will help a lot. We're actually sponsoring the use of fossil fuels today. It's billions of US dollars all around the world goes to sponsor fossil fuels. I think it's 5% of global GDP is going into subsidized fossil fuel use. That needs to stop first. So after that, we could stay everything in the ground.
So simple, and yet
It is that
very
simple.
difficult.